But you can't argue. If you look at the league, the season so far, you can't argue with where we are and what we're doing.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's just a case of really just making the best out of these players, providing the right players at the right times in the right positions, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's difficult because then you've got injury, suspensions, and game plans not going so well. So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue, and the games are coming thick and fast now in EFL League One for Birmingham City. And next up at the weekend at St.Andrews at KnightheadPark is Exeter City. Now, Exeter are a team we know an awful lot about because we've played them already twice this season, played them once in the Vertu Trophy and beat them at their place, and also we played them also at their place in the league in early December. So it's their turn to come to us, and in this podcast, myself and Matt are going to be previewing the game, giving a quick overview of Exeter in terms of their current form, some of their key players, and also maybe hazarding a guess, I would say, on what the Blues lineup would be. So Exeter City, Matt, at home this weekend. What's your thoughts?
It's nice to be back in the league games, isn't it? We've had 2 cup games now, and don't get me wrong, I want to go to Wembley in the EFL Trophy as much as the next person, but the league is where my focus is. This is what I want. This is what I want to win. This is where I think we need to get back to the Championship. That's the key. So it's nice to get back finally playing in the league because they're all huge games to me. Every 3 points we get is another step back into hopefully the promotion bus can get fired up.
Yep.
But yeah, we've seen a few fringe players get minutes, haven't we, in the cup games?
Yep.
We've seen a few injuries, so something to be wary about when we go through our Blues element to this video. Might be a little bit challenging to predict based on injury, but we'll give it our best shot. And as you say in your intro, Dad, a team we know well.
Yeah.
Played them twice now on their turf, 2-0 and 2-1. And this is at St Andrews, though. It's different, isn't it? It's a bigger crowd. It's going to be close to a sellout, if not there, by the time this goes out. And we know teams set up differently against us, don't they, at St Andrews? They do tend to park the bus a little bit more. They do tend to sit in their half a little bit more. Whereas me and you have spoken about our admiration for Exeter, haven't we, Dad? They do try and play football.
They do.
They do try and play possession. They play it from the back. And at least you can respect that because the League One way tends to be hoof and hope, don't it? And a lot of long balls, a lot of sitting back, whereas Exeter don't tend to do that as much. So a lot of respect for them. But they're not in great form over this Christmas period. I know you'll have the in-depth on this, Dad, but last 6 games, 3 losses, 1 draw and 2 wins.
Yeah.
To me, that screams a bottom half of the table team with form, a team to be wary of, though.
Yeah, they started the season very well. In fact, when we played them, they were in the playoffs, I think, or just tinkering just below the playoffs in the league in early December. But they have tailed off a little bit. I mean, sorry,
and they had the best defensive record as well.
Yeah, that's changed. I'll talk about that in a minute. I mean, the last 10 games, they've won 2, drawn 2, and lost 6. So just to give you some of their recent results, the last 2 games they've lost. The last game in the league, they've lost 2-1 at home to Bolton, which is disappointing because Bolton are having a really indifferent season at the moment. They lost 2-1 at Wickham, which is no disgrace because a lot of teams lose at Wickham. They drew 4-4 with Crawley.
I know.
Having been 4-1 down at half time. That was at home actually as well. And they came back. So that shows a bit of resilience that they can come back into games as well. And there are 2 wins before that. Home to Bristol Rovers 3-1 and away to Burton 2-1. Then 2 losses before that. Lost at home to Barnsley. A lot of teams lose at home to Barnsley. They've got a very good away record. And also they lost 2-0 at Stockport before that as well. So you could go back. I mean, they've won 3 games in the last probably 12 or 13. It's not a great run for them at the moment. So, but like you say, we have beaten them twice, and I think this will be a different game for the reasons you said. They'll be coming to St Andrews. I'm not certain they'll play the same type and style of football that they did at their own place because firstly they know what we're about because they've played us twice already. Secondly, I think we'll see a much more defensive and possibly more long balls in this because part of the problem they had against us is we closed them down and they made mistakes at the back. I don't think they're going to risk that at St Andrews.
Yeah, but they do like to get the ball on the ground. They do like to play football, and they do better against the team. Well, just in terms of looking at their results and who they've played against, they play better against the teams who tend to play that style of football because it lends itself, doesn't it? If you have a Wrexham versus Shrewsbury, it's just all in the air, box to box, crosses in the box, physical game, whereas Exeter like to get it on the floor, they like to pass it, and Blues like to do that as well. So, the problem is with Exeter, their execution isn't quite there, is it? And we saw at their place, Dad, in the Cup and the League, we pressured them into all sorts of problems. In fact, I think 2 of our goals came from
we force them into mistakes.
Force them into mistakes, exactly, because of our energy, because of our high press. We do that to teams, don't we? I mean, teams like Exeter like to play it from the back. They can get in trouble against Blues because our energy is just absolutely off the radar, isn't it? But over the Christmas period, Dad, interesting. They've scored 11 goals, 10 of which have been in the second half, 5 of which have been 80-plus minutes. So, again, are we seeing like a bit of a resurgence here in the later parts of the game? Are we noticing a slow start? Can we capitalise on that? Being the home team, can we get off like a rocket ship? And that's one thing for me from Blues I do want to see a bit more of in the second half of this season, especially when we're at home. Absolutely go at teams in the first bit, because we historically have started a little bit slow, haven't we?
The tempo's been too slow, hasn't it? And I think that's something that does need to be addressed, to be honest. They haven't done so well against the top teams. In fact, the top 7 teams, they haven't beaten any of them so far. Orient are in 8th, and they beat them 1-0 away. So they've lost. We're top, so they lost at home to us 2-0. Wickham, they drew 2-2 at home, lost 2-1 away, lost 3-0 at Wrexham, 2-0 at Huddersfield, 2-1 at home to Barnsley, 2-1 at home to Reading. Lost 2-0 at Stockport, so they haven't got a great record against teams at the top half or the top sections of the table. So I think they'll come into this weary. Now, when we played them in December, they had, I think, the best or the second best defence at the time. But now they're right down in 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12th or 13th in the table. So they've conceded 31 goals in their 24 games. They're in exactly the same position in terms of goals scores, 13th, 14th, where they scored 28 goals in those 24 games. And their away record is not great. They've got 13 points out of their 11 away games. So this is going to be a tough game for them. But again, we can't, as you say, underestimate this. They primarily played a 3-4-2-1 system, but that has transitions 5 times. They played 3-4-1-2, so they are interchanging their front line. So they can be and are quite flexible. We're in good form. So in the last 10 games, we've drawn 7. Won 7, drawn 2, lost 1 of our last 10. Obviously, we'll go into... Well, we might not be top of the league when we go into this game because Wrexham play away at Shrewsbury on the Thursday. Right. If they win that, they will go on top. But by that point, we'll have 3 games in hand over Wrexham. But we are going to be first or second in this league.
Well, the odds are Wrexham. The stats and the odds would show Wrexham should win that away at Shrewsbury.
Well, we predicted it, haven't we? In our prediction video, we've suggested
anyway, that's not our issue to worry about because we win our games, we'll be absolutely fine.
Exactly.
I don't tend to do that. I know some fans do. I just don't like looking at other teams and their scores because if we can take care of our business, we'll always be fine. But
the reason I said that was because, like I say, we go into this top of the league, and then like people who watch this video on the front say, "No, we're not. Wrexham are top of the league."
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. But only a few more things for me on Exeter, Dad. One is just coming back to that point that they're very prone to moments of sloppiness, crack under the pressure. If you can put the pressure on, go at them, we could see some goals in this game. I really mean that. And they clearly work very much on their set pieces. And I get worried still defensively with balls in the box with Blues a little bit, corners, free kicks, crosses coming in. So just something to be wary about. I mean, when Ben Davies and Clara at the back, I feel a lot more secure and happy. And I think we've ironed out a lot of those problems because our defensive record this past 2 months, 6 weeks has been absolutely outstanding.
Well, one thing we've got to be wary of, Matt, is that, as we've said in other podcasts, is that every team in this league have dangerous players. Every team has the possibility of scoring goals, and every team comes to St Andrews and has a go. So we have to be wary of that. We've got a great home record. We've only dropped 4 points at home all season. But, so for example, their leading scorer at the moment is Melanie Ali with 5 goals. Then Josh McGuinness with 3. So they're not prolific. They haven't got like an outstanding. We've got 2 scores with 10 goals. But they are capable of scoring goals. And like you say, if they can play, or we allow them to play some of their football, they can pose a threat. So we, as always, as you know, people who watch our channel on a regular basis, we respect the opposition. They will come here. We will expect to win this, but we expected to beat Northampton, didn't we? We expected to
popped up again.
I know. But I think it's important that result happened to make us and focus us as Blues fans. We're not going to breeze through this league.
Of course not.
So I think we do, and we are very repetitive on mentioning the Northampton result because we threw away 2 points in the last minute, and I think that is giving us and maybe the respect for other teams. I think we had the respect anyway, but realising that there's no team is going to lie down at St Andrews, and they're all capable of scoring goals. So,
and also, Dad, since the Shrewsbury game, I've noticed that teams paying us a little bit less respect. So, before I think up until the Shrewsbury game, we literally were up against 11 men in their own half, trying to break them down, and it was driving me nuts. I feel like since then, teams have not paid us as much respect, which plays into our hands because we can actually play football and we're not just facing the low block with just a fortress of men. It's horrible when you have to play that style of football. So, and Exeter aren't that kind of team typically. Again, it might change because they're at St. Andrews. I completely appreciate that. I think they'll still try and play their style of football and stick to their principles. But what the manager will say to them, if you have any doubts or you're in any danger, you just get rid of that ball. You know what I mean? So a couple of times at Exeter, they could have got rid of it, but they persevered with that style of football and it caused them problems. This time at St. Andrews, they're going to do no nonsense.
Yeah. But the manager will tell them, why should you respect Birmingham City? At the end of the day, we're expected to lose this game. You've got nothing to lose. That's what their manager will say. So just have a go. And if we lose, as long as we don't lose badly, people will say, well, you should have lost anyway. Yeah. So why would they do it? So they've got nothing to lose by having a go. That's a dangerous place for us to be with teams having that attitude, because then they're just going to come and if they lose, they go, well, you're Birmingham City, you spent all this money, you're top of the league. We're supposed to lose. But actually, if they have a real go, they've got half a chance. And in fact, any team, if they come to a St. Andrews or any team goes anywhere with a defeatist attitude, we're going to lose, they will lose.
It's kind of like Bristol Rovers, I think, for me this year. I think they turned up expecting to lose. Like they had that body language and that attitude they did. Anyway, should we go into the Blues, Dad?
Yeah, let's do that.
This will be interesting because we do have a few injuries. We have had a few fringe players coming in off the back of the cup game. So I think last game I did attack and you did defence. So shall I do defence and you do attack? And then for the next one we'll flip it. Okay. So I think Allsop will be making his way back in goal. Yeah. He seems to be our number one now, and thankfully
he's had a good rest.
He's
had a good rest.
And what a season he's having, by the way. I just want to give Allsop a bit of a shout out. I think he's been absolutely sensational this past couple of months.
He's been great.
So I think Cochrane left back.
Yes.
I think Ben Davies, the left side of centre back, with Clara back in the right side of centre back, and I've plumbed for Laird at right back.
Okay. The only difference is if he's fit, I've gone for Bielek.
Okay.
At right back. I think it worked really well against Exeter.
Do we have an update on Bielek? Have you phoned Davies yet?
I haven't phoned Chris Davies just yet, but I will do after this podcast. But I believe he's not too far away. I think he was close. Clearly, I don't think that Chris Davies was ever going to risk him for the cup games. It wouldn't have been worth it. What's the point in doing that and getting him injured again? But I think he's got. I believe he could be in contention. I think he'll either start or be on the bench. But
how did you drop Laird after the last league game against Wigan?
It's difficult, isn't it?
It is difficult. By the way, I'm just posing a question in the air.
And it could easily be Laird. It could easily be Laird. I mean, either or would do for me. But Same. I think I'm plumping for Bielek. You're plumping for Laird. But it's 50-50, isn't it? Really?
I think if Bielek's back fit, he might get the nod ahead. But I think after the Wigan performance, if Bielek's on the fence, he might just put Laird in for safety.
I hope he's on the fence. That'd be uncomfortable for him.
I could see a joke in your eyes then before you said it.
But the only thing about Laird is he had an outstanding performance against Wigan, the best he's ever played in the blue shirt. Yeah. He, when we saw him against Swindon in the cup, he wasn't as effective. I know it was a different team, different players around him. I get all that. So, but I want the Laird of the Wigan Laird, and if he can be like that, I'd pick him above Bielek every time, wouldn't you?
Lairdinho.
Lairdinho, I mean, but you couldn't know how that's going to work. But it's going to be either or. I'll plump for Bielek. You'll plump for Laird. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we come on to our midfield. Okay. Now there's obviously heard that Paik and Awata have both picked up niggles. And Williamson as well.
Yeah.
So
apparently, though, Dad, Awata and Paik will be fit for Exeter. It's just they picked up little niggles. Apparently, so that's just what I've read.
And I'm going for both of them starting. So I've gone for Paik and Awata. I hope they're not injured, but if they are, then obviously one or the other. Mark Leonard could potentially fill in those spaces. But I'm gonna plump for both of them starting.
And also, Dad, I don't know whether you agree. In fact, I know you agree because you mentioned it in the Swindon video. But I think these last cup games have highlighted how important Awata and Paik are to this team.
Yeah, exactly. We do need him in the team. But then again, if they got niggles, you don't want to risk them getting badly injured. So Chris Davies, because obviously we got games against Wrexham and Huddersfield coming up. I think on the left will be Stansfield if he's fit again. But the rumours are that he's not far away either, and I think he'd like to play in this game as well because it's Exeter, isn't it? So I think I'm going to go Paik and Awata in the middle, Stansfield on the left. I'm going to go for Scott Wright. On the right. Now, we know that Williamson probably won't play for this game from what we've heard. He's picked up an injury in training, which is not serious, but I've heard 1-2 weeks, something like that. Yeah. So then there's the number 10. Now, that causes a bit of a dilemma, really, doesn't it? Because Alfie being the number 9, and the choices are going to be Luke Harris, Dykes, possibly Mark Leonard.
Yes.
in there.
So there's two questions here, Dad. What do we want to see, and what do you think Chris Davies is going to see?
I would like to see Mark Leonard in there. I think we're going to see probably Dykes.
I would like to see Leonard. And again, I know we spoke a couple of weeks ago, Dad, about fitting round pegs in square holes, and I get that because Leonard isn't a number 10. But in this context, we know he can play there. And I just haven't been impressed in the last couple of games enough with Harris and Dykes. So I would like to see Leonard in the 10. I think Chris Davies is going to play Harris.
Yeah, I think he will as well. I think Dykes, but it's clear that Chris Davies has a preference for Harris.
He likes Harris.
Yeah, so I think from my point of view, out of those two, I would put Dykes in there in the number 10. But I mean, to be fair to Harris, he's not, he needs to be more effective in games. You can clearly see his energy. And his play, he's not a bad player.
No.
It's just if you look at each game, what impact has he actually made? It's not always obvious, is it?
There is absolutely no doubt Harris is a talented footballer. There's no doubt about it. But he just hasn't fired at Blues yet. He hasn't got what when you look at Williamson in the 10, or you look at other players in the 10, their ability to he's not really doing that breaking down. Sorry, the creativity side of it for me enough, and I think he gives the ball away a little bit easily. But Dykes hasn't been firing. I mean, don't get me wrong, the goal against Lincoln was absolutely sensational. But that was when he was in the 9. I'm talking about the 10 here, and he played in the 10 against Swindon, didn't he?
Yeah.
And for me, I would rather see Leonard in the 10. But as I said, I just got a feeling Chris Davies is going to plump for Harris.
It'd be interesting to see what Blues fans think. Harris didn't really work on the right against Swindon, but obviously I think Scott Wright will start there. He looked sharp when he came on against Wigan, didn't he? And it wasn't overly effective. He got about 20 minutes against Swindon. Weren't great, but I think he'll maybe get a start. On the bench, we'll have Bailey Peacock-Farrell. I think Taylor Gardner-Hill will definitely be on the bench because he can play multiple positions. Yeah. It'll either be Laird or Bielek on the bench, whichever is picked. Leonard, I think Yokoyama's earned the right to be on the bench.
Yeah.
I think he's on his performances, he's scoring goals, and I think he's got his right to be there. Yeah. And then probably, obviously, with Williamson injured, he obviously won't be in the squad. Yuki probably end up on the bench as well, I think.
And I just want to come back to the left, Dad, because if Stansfield is injured, I still don't think Yokoyama would start in the league games. I think he'd stick Taylor Gardner-Hickman there because that's where he went against Wigan. Taylor Gardner-Hickman on the left against Wigan. So let's just play the game that Stansfield's injured. Yeah, I think Taylor Gardner-Hickman would fit that spot with obviously Yokoyama coming on.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's exactly what will happen. I don't think Chris Davies is confident enough to start Yokoyama in a league game. I think you can do it in cups.
Yeah.
And he's proved that
you can see why.
Yeah,
we love Yokoyama, talented player.
If Yokoyama's only remit was to go forward, you'd pick him every time.
Yeah.
But that's not the issue. I think for all of his, and he does create chances. He is a danger. That's why he'll be an impact substitute. But over the course of 90 minutes, there's also defending to do as well and keeping the shape of the team. And I think that's where he needs to develop. So not criticising him in terms of Swindon. He was the outstanding player really that created all the chances.
He was probably the only one who came our way with any sort of glory, really.
Yeah, he came out with a lot of credibility, I think, in that game.
Credibility is a better word.
But I think that I agree. I think Chris Davies has actually said that he identifies Yokoyama needs more development in those areas of the game, which I just don't think he's confident enough. I mean, don't forget he's still a young lad, Yokoyama. Yeah. He's got a load of potential.
What is he? What's his age?
I believe 19 or 20.
Something like that.
He's young, isn't he? And he's got loads. He's going to have a fantastic future. And but the fact that he's getting first team football as well is really helping him because he's academy age.
Yeah.
19, 20, isn't he? If that's his age, and I think that he'll be on the bench because I think you can't not put him on the bench really.
Not after the last two games.
No, you can't not really. I mean, at the end of the day, Chris Davies might argue, yes, I can. I'm the manager.
Of course you can. Yeah.
And this is the problem, isn't it, with League One? With only having 7 substitutes. Yeah. If there was 9, he would be on the bench probably every game, wouldn't he?
Yeah. And also, Dad, I'd like to remind ourselves, me and you aren't football managers. Chris Davies knows a lot more about the game than me and you do. So
I'd argue that we don't. No, I'm joking.
So I very much trust him and what he's been. Because, you got he's with these players day in, day out on the training pitch. He sees stuff we are not privy to.
Yeah.
So he makes his decisions based off that. But yeah, it's that thing where I think as football fans, it's really easy to look and go, oh, why didn't he do that? Why didn't he do that? I do it all the time. Like, start him there. Do this,
yeah,
that.
you see, we can do that, can't we? Because we can look at a game like Swindon, and we're all managers in the crowd, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Do this, do that. Go forward, bring this player in. But at the end of the day, he's the one that's paid to do it, isn't he?
exactly.
He has to stand or fall by his decisions. Sometimes that'll work, sometimes it won't. But you can't argue. If you look at the season so far, you can't argue with where we are and what we're doing.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's just a case of really just making the best out of these players, providing the right players at the right times in the right positions, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's difficult because then you've got injury, suspensions, and game plans not going so well. So he's got a tough job. Yeah, people would say, well, he's paid enough for it. But it's still a tough
Pressure,
job.
isn't it?
Because every decision you make, you could be criticised for.
Yeah.
So good luck to him. But you can't argue with what he's doing.
He's got the backing of the fans. We all love him, and he's genuinely doing an incredible job. I still can't believe. I have to pinch myself sometimes when I see where what's happening at this club, and great stuff. So, Dad, score predictions, and then we'll finish the video. So, again, if you'd have seen our video yesterday, we did a score prediction video. Sorry, a couple of days ago, you'd have seen our score predictions. If you didn't see that, let's just remind people what we think our scores.
So I've gone for a 2-0 Blues home win.
Yep, I've gone for a 3-0 Blues home win.
Yeah.
I think we're going to continue the trend from Wigan, and because Exeter play similar-ish, play into our hands, see some goals.
Yeah, and we've only conceded like 2 goals in like 9 league games, so I think our we're not going to concede many goals in this game. So we've gone for both clean sheets, haven't we?
Yep.
So that's what we think, Blues fans. But what do you think? What do you think the score will be? What do you think the team selection will be? It's a bit of a sort of not confusing choice at the moment, but there's lots of options and related to who's injured, who's fit, what system that Chris Davies wants to play and where. So let us know in the comments below what you think the score will be and maybe what you think the starting lineup will be. If you are an Exeter City fan, as always, if you've come across this podcast for the first time or if you came across it, some of our videos before when we've played you, always welcome your comments as well. We love to have comments from the fans of opposition teams as well. So pop a comment below and let us know what your thoughts are as well. If you did like this podcast, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't checked us out on our social media channels already, pop along to our X page and our Instagram page. And if you'd like to watch or listen to your podcast on Spotify, you'll find us there as well. And you'll see the handles appearing on the screen for all of these right now. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already and you'd like to, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you want notification every time myself and Matt put out a new podcast, then hit that little bell icon, which is next to the subscribe button, and then you'll get a message or a notification every time we put a new podcast out. So that's it for this podcast. Hope you've enjoyed it. And myself and Matt will see you on the next one, all about Birmingham City.